Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sophia. Today we will be talking about books. I actually have notes, which I never do. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But we will be talking about pseudo-intellectualism when it comes to the reading community. We will be talking about overconsumption when it comes to the reading community. And the performative aspect of reading. In no particular order. I just wrote them down so that I cover all of them. Okay, before we get in, a few things. First of all, I'm in my dressing gown. If I flash you, that's your business. Second thing, it is almost 10 p.m. at night. I am running my first 10K race. Like, my first race full stop tomorrow. And I am very nervous, which is why I was like... I need to do something, otherwise I'm going to lose my mind. So, enter you. I'm not doing you, but, oh my God. Bzz. Okay. Third thing? Yeah, I think. Third thing. If the light situation's shit, I don't know, that's on you. Also, my camera isn't charged. So if the video just cuts randomly and it's just audio, guilty. Also, I don't know, I lost count, like the fifth thing or something. I don't know. I am speaking quite in a lowered volume because everyone's home, and I usually record when no one's home or when only one person is home because, I don't know, I get nervous and I get shy. I feel super silly being alone in my room talking to myself. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like if one of my flatmates was doing that, I'd be a bit concerned. I'd be like, girl, you okay? Oh, what is going on? Also, last thing before we get into it, because I always tend to really make it long with these intros. I think it's super funny that you're sitting on Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, and Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. That's the setup. Speaking of Intermezzo, that's how I link it to the topic of the episode. So, if you're part of the reading community, you know that Sally Rooney's newest book just dropped like last week. If you have no idea what I just said, hello, hi, I love you. There's this author, Sally Rooney, wrote Normal People, right? Then she released another book called Intermezzo. And I've been seeing it on shelves everywhere, and I was like, you know what, I really want it because it looks very cool. Hold on, I'll show you. Oops. This is the book. It's blue. Do you know how like 3 seconds ago I said that I love Intermezzo? I do, but I have a bit of beef with it. So in today's episode, we are going to unpack that, okay? Okay. First, I want to talk about how I got into reading. So I was at school. No, actually, way before that. I was young, like a kid, right? 2 years old, I don't know. Very young, baby. And my mom would always read to me before falling asleep. Greatest way to fall asleep, right? Then one day, she decided to read Peter Pan to me. Big mistake, mama, because I did not let her read anything else to me for weeks, if not months. And it was always the same exact book. It wasn't even like proper Peter Pan, which is quite lengthy, you know? It was like a children's version. It was like, do you know the Disney film? So they took pictures from the Disney film and put them in like a magazine, and at the end it had like word games and stuff. So it was like this thick. It was like maybe 5-6 pages, maybe a bit more, I don't know, 10 pages. Let's say 10 pages, right? So we would go through the story every single night. Poor mom. After a while, she was like, girl, I can't be asked to read the same book to you over and over and over again. Like, I'm done. She didn't actually say that to me, but what she did, because she's a clever woman, she knew I couldn't read. So, based on the pictures, she would make up a different story. And for example, she'd be like, oh, and then, I don't know, Captain Hook decided to jump on a cloud and run after Peter Pan, right? Hypothetically. And I'd be like, Mum, you said a word that starts with the letter J, but this word starts with the letter D. So I know you're not reading the book. She was like, okay, Miss Girl, if you know your letter so well, there you go. This is your book. You read it now. I was like, sorry, what? And that's basically how I learned to read. Loved reading ever since. Not really. Well, technically, just a bit. I don't know. I really got into reading with the Dork Diary series. Loved them because they had a lot of cartoons in it, so the text wasn't, it was like spaced out, right? So I would read more pages than like actual, do you know what I mean? Like I would go through the book quickly because a lot of it was just drawings. Then I had a point in my life where I wasn't reading at all. Then we had to read for school. Ugh, disgusting. Then, I don't know, I found this book, like The Library of Dr. Lemoncello, I think. I don't know. So I read that and I was like, ooh, books are actually super cool. And then I got crazy into reading. And ever since then, ever since I was like 14, I think, I've been loving reading. And I'm going in and out of phases, right? Like there was a year where I read, I think, 66 books. This year I only read 9. And I'm saying, oh my God, I only read 9. But like to me, that's not a lot. Do you know what I mean? So I'm making a point to read more. Now, during the summer, I was started reading Anna Karenina. I don't know why. I just had it on my bookshelves and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start reading this. It was actually very fun until it wasn't. And then I had to stop midway through the book because I was like, I actually don't have the time or effort to put into any of this. So I put her to the side. And then I came to London with just Anna Karenina, even though I have like other books that I could have taken with me. But I was like, no, I need to read it once and for all. Well, currently I'm using it as a stand for you. You're welcome, by the way. I was reading it and it wasn't really going. Like I could max read maybe like 5 pages at a time and then I just doze off and not have the attention span for it. Then I actually don't know how I came up about this book, but like I've seen it around all the time. It's Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. It says like autobiography, and I've seen it around ever since it came out a couple of years ago. But I never felt drawn to it until like a couple of weeks ago when it was the only like book that I could think of. I was like, I need to get my hands on that. And so I did. And I read it in like 2 days because the format, it has a lot of like notes and pictures in it. So again, like with the Dork Diaries books, you go through it like very quickly. And then I was like, damn, I actually enjoy reading. So then then I discovered that Spotify carries audiobooks. So I listened to an audiobook. Again, 2 days, 8 hours of listening, done. Read another book, right? Then I was like, wait, I actually really like reading. So obviously I've been seeing this Sally Rooney book, Intermezzo, everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get it. So I got it yesterday and I started reading it today. And people are already asking me what I think about it. I don't know, girl. I'm only like 60 pages in. I mean, I have some thoughts, but as I said, we're going to touch on them in a minute. That brought up a few points of discussion in my head that have been brewing for a while because I've had some conversations with friends over the past months exploring some of these topics. And I was like, you know what? This would be great to talk to you about because I feel like you'd enjoy it. So that's what I'm doing today. Now, also today, I had work. And basically my work, one of my jobs, is to organize social pickleball sessions for people at my school. So I do that. I set up the nets, have the little rackets with the balls, and then I just give them and people play. And sometimes, because there's an even number of players, everybody's having fun, I don't have much to do during it. So I had my book with me. I don't know if this is very professional, so please, if you're an employer, I don't do this. I'm like super on top of my work and stuff. And I actually wasn't working when this was happening, like not at all. And this is just like a hypothetical story to prove a point. So I was reading my book and I have I actually have not been doing this, but at previous sessions, I was definitely not reading another book. Definitely. Why would I be doing that? Anyway, so as I was sat not reading, I was actually enjoying the book. And then someone made a comment on it. They're like, oh, what are you reading? And for whatever, this is going to sound so silly, but I don't know how to properly explain this. For whatever reason, it didn't clock to me that I was reading up until that point. Like I knew I was reading. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't like a thing that I was actively aware that I was doing. I hope this makes sense because I don't know how to explain it. But then in my head, I was like, oh, I am reading now. And then the whole act became very performative. Do you know what I mean? Like when I opened my book, I was like, oh, I am reading now. Whereas it literally was a way to pass time because I thought it was less rude than scrolling on my phone. So that made me think of how performative reading has become in like our lives right now. I live in London and I take the tube to go places, obviously. And I think most of the time in my carriage, there's at least one person reading, which is cool. I like to read on the tube. I don't get car sick, which is brilliant. But I feel like, and I use the tube as a poor example, to be honest, but I feel like reading, especially now, and I do think this is a product of capitalism, because what does capitalism do? It sells you an idea. It sells you a concept through an object. So this is very easily seen in makeup, where like, ooh, very subtle conditioning, where you think that, again, with makeup, if you buy, for example, that lip tint, you are going to have luscious lips, which subconsciously correlate with a specific lifestyle. I don't know if that was the best example, but I hope you're catching my drift. And that's what's happening with books. Capitalism, or like big corporate, just booksellers, right? They're packaging this new idea of intellectualism is hot and sexy and cool, and selling it to you through books, which I agree, being smart is very hot and cool, but I don't like how it feeds into consumerism, which is the second point that I will touch on. But let's talk about the performance aspect of it. And I have beef with Jacob Lordy, so if you like Jacob Lordy, okay, but if you love Jacob Lordy, this might piss you off, and I'm sorry, not really, I don't know. But he is part of the performative aspect of carrying a book around because of what it symbolizes. So everybody's seen Jacob Lordy with his little book in his trousers. I don't know if he actually reads them. I don't know if he does, because from my lens, he's using them as an accessory, which has worked wonders for him. And if he actually reads them, my bad, Jacob, my bad. But the thing is, I feel like it's become a trend lately, almost, to carry books visibly. So like to carry them in your hand, to put them in your pockets, where you can see the book with you, because it becomes an accessory to your outfit. It becomes almost like a sign to the people around you that you are intellectual, that you're smart, that you're hot, cool, funny, right? This culminated for me because we see celebrities carrying books like every day now, right? And some of them I'm like, okay, I know you're reading that. And I love her. I think she's so iconic. But when Addison Rae was walking in the street with an open book, girl, I know you are not reading that. I am sorry, but I know you are not reading a book while you're walking. Unless your name is YN, then I'll let it slide. To me, as someone who enjoys the act of reading, and especially when I was growing up, it wasn't seen as something cool. It's sort of like, oh my God, really? And I don't know, maybe I'm projecting, but I feel like this is the trend of reading, or not even reading, but the trendification of the symbol of book is taking away from the people who actually read. Because now reading is seen as such a performative act. Even, and this is me trying to be self-aware, right? Even today at work, when I was not reading, I felt after a certain point like my actions were very performative in order to signify that, look, I am holding a book, which means da-da-da-da-da-da about me, right? Which wasn't even my intention. And I don't know if that makes it worse or better. That's the thing with books. In like the social zeitgeist that we're in right now, I don't really vibe with the fact that books, how am I gonna vamp up is how am I going to vamp up my outfit? Am I going to use a bandana, a cool bag, a statement piece of jewelry, or a book? Do you know what I mean? That's what it comes off to me. And it's like, ugh. Because this is literature. This is not an accessory. And I know covers are gorgeous. Like even the intermezzo cover is so beautiful and I'm obsessed with it and I love looking at it. But really, I don't know, that's just my take as a pissed reader, right? Because it's like, ugh, if you're reading the book and you're enjoying it and you're trying to understand it, yes, carry it around. And like, of course, people carry books around because they read it. I don't know. It sounds like I'm being pissed for no reason, which is why we should move on to the next point, overconsumption, which I am super guilty of because I bought 2 books in a week. Considering how much books are, I don't know how smart of a purchase that was because with the nature of books, once you read it, it has served its purpose. Sure, you can go back and reread it, and I've done that multiple times. But do you need to own every single book that you read? No. Considering that, especially the more that you read and the more that you refine your palette as a reader and the more that you can understand what you like and what you don't when it comes to literature, there's going to be less books that you actually enjoy because you've refined your taste, and more books that you're just like, okay, or like outright bad. So spending money on those books to then read them once, finish them, might not even finish them, right? But let's say you read it once, you finish it, and then it's on your bookshelf collecting dust. And I understand there's book collectors, which great, but not everyone is a book collector. And I'm just thinking back to like because I went through a book phase. Like I still enjoy reading, but I went through a book phase, right? So at home, I have this humongous bookshelf and it's like books are stacked like that on top of one another. There's no space on it anymore. Yet I still keep buying books. Like I literally go home and I don't have anywhere to put them, but I'm still in the act of buying them. And this upsets me because it sort of connotes the death of libraries, which is super sad because I don't know, I never grew up in like a time where libraries were really booming, except for my school libraries. I've only actually ever used one external library. I really think that the way that the book market is constructed now, it's encouraging people to overconsume books. And I think this is in big part, and I'm not saying they caused it, but it's in big part reinforced by book communities across the internet, like Book Talk on TikTok or BookTube on YouTube, which I used to love before they turned to literary, right? I don't think I can include that, but books that are very spicy, right? And I don't mind spice in books, but I think if you're buying a book just for the sole purpose of reading, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole another discussion in itself. But creators online who do these massive book hauls inspire people to buy more books, or people with humongous bookshelves. It makes you want to buy more. And you always hear about certain books and you're like, oh, I want to buy that. I want to get that. I want to grab that. And I feel like we're getting to a point, and if you're in any of these online book communities, you would have heard this phrase way too many times to count, but there's a saying that goes as such: reading books and buying books are 2 different hobbies. It sounds very innocent when you first say it, but if you really think about it, there's such an allure to buying books and to investing money into books. And there's many, many people out there. You might be one of them. I don't know. I used to be one of them. I feel like I've reformed. But people who have like 10 books on their physical TBR, which for non-book people, basically books that you own that you want to read. And they never touch them, ever, because they just buy more books and then read one of them and then buy two more, and then read one, and then buy two more. So you end up with a whole load of books that you physically don't have the time to get to. My take with that is libraries should be popularized, and everybody should be going to the libraries because reading is super cool and everybody likes to read. But instead of buying books, we should all read books from the library. That's my take. Anyway, see you at Waterstones tomorrow, where I'm going to spend another shit ton of money. And the last point, which is where the Sally Rooney book is finally coming into play, pseudo-intellectualism. What does that mean? It's basically people pretending to be smart, right? And I feel like a lot of this book carrying thing, book trend reading thing is people pretending to be smart. And I'm not saying if you're reading a book, you are pretending to be smart, or if you, I don't know, I lost my train of thought. But basically, a lot of the performance of reading is down to attaining this level of intellect in the eyes of the people watching you. With pseudo-intellectualism, what I'm finding is this pursuit for, because basically I feel like we're all realizing how powerful knowledge actually is, and it's no longer like, cool dude, to be fucking stupid, because why was that cool in the first place? I don't know. I think smart people are the coolest people ever because you can actually talk to them, right? I think that a lot of it and a lot of the nuance is getting lost because there's three elements, right? And I'm going to try, wait, let me make notes. Hold on while I write, please. I wrote my notes. Let's get back to it. So the pseudo-intellectualism comes from three origin points. The first one, I feel like they're all like little rays and they go into one, right? And that one is why pseudo-intellectualism exists and why it's tied to book talk, or like better said, to book buying, owning, displaying, not necessarily reading. First of all, Gen Alpha can't fucking read, right? We are seeing this uprise in illiteracy where younger kids just don't read, and not even because they're not interested in reading. First of all, in most cases, it's never been part of their lives because they grew up with technology, so it sort of supplemented books. Because I'd say like I'm a true Gen Z, right? But I'm on the older side of, I don't know, like I grew up with technology around me, but it wasn't a big part of my life until I was like around 7, right? So I feel like for the younger generation, and obviously this is a very generalized view of things, I'm sure there's individuals out there who can disprove everything that I'm about to say, but I'm talking from my perspective over this whole age group. They've spent their entire childhoods, arguably still are, on their phones and playing games and using technology as opposed to reading, which I'm not saying one is a better source of information than the other, is just the act of it. Even from like a dopamine release standpoint, books give you so much less dopamine, I'd say, or if not less, it's a delayed gratification. Whereas the younger people, I mean, myself included, we're used to this like instant gratification dopamine hit with every single swipe or whatever, right? So them not having books, their parents not being bothered teaching them how to read or about reading at all, has gotten us to this point where teachers are complaining that the kids can't fucking read or write, which is silly. Actually, not silly. That's concerning, majorly so. So that's one of the points, right? One of the rays. Second one, Colleen Hoover books, trigger warning. If you love Colleen Hoover, I love you for sticking to this point, but I don't know if you're going to like what I'm about to say, but I feel like Colleen Hoover, good for her. I have so much respect for her, right? Very, very successful woman. And for that, I applaud her. But I think that the readers of Colleen Hoover books have massively, how would you say, overpopulated online reading communities. So now people who used to go to these reading communities to find recommendations about like different genres of books, right? Like sci-fi books or literary fiction books. Now everything is very Colleen Hoover-esque, very icebreaker-esque, right? Every single book, in order to be popularized online, has to have smut in it, has to be a quick read that you can buy, consume, discard, right? And by discard, I mean put on a shelf. Please don't throw your books away. Thank you. And I feel like, again, that's a thing that put people off. And they're like, this reading, something that was seen and still is arguably seen as a very intellectual act. It has become mainstream in a way that's accessible and also a way that's appealing to women. So if women like it, everybody else should hate it. That is sarcasm, by the way. I personally have never read a Colleen Hoover book. It doesn't seem like something I would enjoy. Maybe I'm mistaken. So I'm just saying that so that you know where my opinion comes from. I think that with the rise in popularity of, and when I say Colleen Hoover books, I don't mean her books, like Ugly Love, Verity, what's it called with the Blake Lively thing? Only Us? No, and It Ends With Us. It Ends With Us, right? I know my Colleen Hoover, even though I've never read it, but I'm talking about those books, plus Icebreaker, the book that looks exactly like Icebreaker but has a different name, the other book with the exact same cover. They all have the exact same cover. Maybe it's wrong of me to group them together, but in my eyes, it looks like they're from the same genre of books. They are like pulp, right? You just read them, you consume them. They don't bring you much intellectual stimulation or knowledge, right? They're just your casual film. I feel like with their rise in popularity and with the rise in hype that they're continuously getting for like a few years now, it has put a lot of people off reading because that is the only reading that is marketed. And people are like, I don't want to read that, right? And now the last beam coming in. And this is sort of like, those are the two causes, the rise of illiteracy and only one genre of book being popularized, which is why there's a rise in pseudo-intellectualism, which is where finally, I've been teasing this for so long, but Intermezzo by Sally Rooney comes on. So again, I've only read 60 pages of it, but the first chapter, and I've been seeing this in a few books lately, the first chapter has odd punctuation. The whole book does. It's not that in your face, but like, for example, dialogue is written plainly as a sentence without like quotation marks. The first chapter though, and this is a spoiler-free thing-ish. I'll try to keep it spoiler-free. The first chapter, the sentences are so they're grammatically correct, but at the border in a way that seems a bit snobbish and a bit pseudo-intellectual, where it's like, and I'm not dissing Sally Rooney. I think she's an incredible writer because like the second chapter and the third chapter, I'm like, yes, I love everything that you're doing. Plus, this is my first book of hers that I'm reading. So maybe this is a stylistic choice that she has in every single book. But I'm just talking about my experience, right? I very much felt like the stylistic aspect of the writing was intentional to make the reader feel stupid and to make the book seem more intellectual than it is. And as a consequence, make the reader want to understand it, not understand it, and then pretend to understand it in order to feel superior to other readers because they're so intelligent that they can understand what the author meant, right? And I'm seeing this phenomenon with a lot of people, especially like pulling up classics or stuff, or reading books that are notoriously complex in order to create this aura of depth and intelligence around you as a person. Yeah, I feel like that's what books have come to now. They're a token to showcase to the world how intelligent you are, whether or not you actually are. Especially because I feel like in the new social climate, it is very much a flex to one, be able to read, and then two, be able to understand what you're reading. So to conclude, I basically think that everybody should read what they want to read. And if that's Colleen Hoover, it's Colleen Hoover that you want to read. So go read that. And also, I feel like people should read more for the sake of enjoyment, and people should read less if they're reading for other people to think of them in a specific way. I guess the highlights of the whole popularization of reading, and Colleen Hoover as well, is the fact that reading is becoming more accessible to a lot more people than ever before. And I think that is great. I enjoy reading a lot, and I'm glad that I've gotten back into it. And I'm glad that, I have access to a lot of books, and that people are also enjoying reading as much as I am. I hope this doesn't come off as like me shitting on reading, because it's totally not that. Like, you're literally sitting on a stack of books that 70% of which I bought in the last week, right? This was just an opinion piece and my observations on what's happening in the current social habitat. I'm so tired. It's like 10:30. I've been speaking for so long, and I'm very nervous about my race tomorrow, but I feel like talking to you, I've consumed that last bit of energy that I had stored up, and now I'm ready to literally slide under the covers and go to bed. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you enjoyed, leave a like and comment down below what you thought. If you didn't enjoy and you're still here, what an icon. Please tell me everything that you disagree with in the comments, because I love when people disagree with me. I'm like, wait, you're challenging my thoughts. And oftentimes I actually agree with what people say, even though they're technically disagreeing with me, because it's allowing me to see a different perspective, which I love. Also, if you've listened to this point and you're not subscribed to my channel, what the are you doing? Honestly, clearly you like hearing me talk. So I'd love to see you here again. Thank you for spending time with me. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.